everybody to the show. Nicole Curvin is with us from the Pittsburgh Coalition of Reason, and Stephen Hurdle from the same organization. That would be Nicole, and if you've not seen Stephen, forgive me, my head was down, but there would be Stephen. Welcome to the show. You're with Pittsburgh CoR, Pittsburgh Coalition of Reason. Let's start with the basics. Let's start with what CoR is, and we can do it locally, nationally, and go from there.
Sure. So the United Coalition of Reason is a national organization. They're actually the ones named in the suit that we'll be discussing, and they seek to help local groups to raise awareness about their existence, about secular groups. And we happen to be the Pittsburgh local chapter of the United CoR. So we're Pittsburgh Coalition of Reason, and we're a coalition of 9 groups in the Pittsburgh area, and so we're the local.
Okay, you're the local affiliate, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Stephen, nationally, how many states or how large a group would the Coalition of Reason be?
They have almost every state. I know they've run this particular bus ad in 35 different states and the District of Columbia, including Philadelphia,
sure,
Morgantown, and we were a little bit surprised that it wasn't going to run in Pittsburgh.
First of all, let's show the ad, and then I'm going to explain what they're here for. Don't believe in God, you are not alone. That's the ad. It's a pretty ad, I have to tell you. Blue's pretty, and PittsburghCoR.org. Who is God in this ad?
God might be whatever God you might believe in, and there are a number of people who do not believe in any God or collection of gods, are more interested in secular or humanist views, and that's the largest growing group in the United States right now.
I get that who your group is, and I'm going to explain to the audience in a moment why. What the basis is of your lawsuit, but I guess I'm trying to get as specific as I can. Yeah. Is God a generic God across religions, or is God the Father of Jesus Christ, or is he one example of who God is?
I think we would say that it's just meant to be a general statement about if you have a belief in a deity or deities, then we're talking about people who don't have that belief. That's all.
Okay, that's fine. I wanted to see, exactly who we were talking about, so to speak. Well, I'm going to get a couple things out of the way right off the bat. I am a believer. I know that you're not. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to sell you. I'm not here to yell at anybody. I'm here to analyze analytically, legally, and so forth. Many of my friends, as I pointed out to you before the show, fit into the category that you represent. We've had healthy debates through the years. I'm sure we'll respect each other's point of view. And I, at some level, appreciate the fact that you actually put God with a capital G, because quite candidly, as a believer, I find a creeping disrespect of the title God, if there's such a title, with a small g. But that is perhaps off the tracks. Let's go with what specifically brings you here, and that would be that the Port Authority has been sued in federal district court, Western District, by your organization. You effectively had $5 or $6 grand of advertising you wanted to place on the side of buses. You thought in 2011 you had a deal. It was an annual. It was a buy of about $6 grand, I believe it was, and then you received notice that they were going to reject it because it was non-commercial.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Now I will tell you, I've got one arm behind my back tonight. Not that will hurt me, but the fact of the matter is, I'm not real happy that I don't have a Port Authority here. On the one hand, I'd like to have the Port Authority here because it would sort of allow me to play the position I'm supposed to play. However, if I was representing them as a lawyer and their defendant, I probably am not trying the case on television. I always told clients to be quiet. So I'm conflicted as a talk show host and as a lawyer. What have they told you in terms of the basis for denying or rejecting the ad?
Well, all we have is what they submitted back in writing, which was that they do not run non-commercial ads, and this was considered a non-commercial ad. It's a little bit surprising because a number of their ads are non-commercial. They were at the time, and they continue to be.
Such as?
They run ads during flu season to help you get a flu shot from a health organization. There's a group called the Breathe Project, which was simply trying to raise awareness about pollution. There were a number of other ads, universities, Highmark and UPMC are big advertisers. They are supposedly non-commercial as well.
So the first two strike me as PSAs. There's a distinction between PSAs and perhaps some of the other categories. Actually, Caitlin has been able to put out the policy. Now, I have it on my phone, but it's really tough to read. I'm going to try to do it. Oh, it's even tougher to read now. Okay, so here's what I'm going to try to do. We don't have to keep it up, Caitlin. Unfortunately, it's going to be disruptive for me to have to be seen on camera reading this long, but this has to be done in order for us to understand where they're coming from. It shall be the policy of the Port Authority of Allegheny County to accept commercial advertising for posting in and on Port Authority vehicles and other property owned or controlled by Port Authority, or of its sole choosing, with the objective of maximizing revenue while maintaining standards of decency and good taste without infringing on First Amendment rights of prospective advertisers. That's the basis of your lawsuit. Accordingly, Port Authority will not accept advertisements that are obscene, unlawful, misleading, libelous, or fraudulent. Further, Port Authority will not accept advertisements that are non-commercial, that appeal to prurient interests, that are or may be offensive to riders, that glamorize or otherwise promote violence, sexual conduct, alcohol or tobacco use, that are political in nature or contain political messages, or that are reasonably determined not to be in good taste. And then finally, this policy is intended to be an objective and enforceable standard for advertising that is consistently applied. It is also Port Authority's declared intent not to allow any of its transit vehicles or property to become a public forum for dissemination, debate, or discussion of public issues. Now, frankly, as a lawyer, it looks like I wrote this. They cover everything in this. They've got their basis for denying it. They've got about 10 bases in here, one of which is the last sentence, which basically says we're not going to be used as a public forum for dissemination, debate, or discussion of public issues. Go ahead.
And I think that's why this particular wording of this billboard is important, because we're not asking you, people like you, to not believe in God or not challenging. We're simply saying, if you are already an atheist or an agnostic, there are other people like you, come join us.
Now, and you're trying to create notice and awareness, and you pointed the word out, awareness. Now, here's where you've got to forgive me to a certain extent, Nicole. Looking at what Pittsburgh CoR has printed on its website, Pittsburgh Coalition of Reason, and it has the mission stated as this: to build a supportive community for non-believers, to create positive change in the world by providing secular resources and opportunities for people to live out their humanistic values, and to raise public awareness that there are people everywhere who are good without God or religion. I'm skeptical, because I find that while that in of itself doesn't strike me as offensive, I recoil a bit at the concept that that is the limited and exclusive nature of the mission. It strikes me more often than not that the mission has a much larger agenda played out on a political or legal level. Removal of God with anything within a governmental entity, which is a very key element to what you're filing suit on now. Should I look at this as only as, hey guys, we got a group over here, you're welcome to join us, or am I wrong for being skeptical about that that's the limit of what the purpose and mission is?
Well, I can speak to that in that I wrote that mission statement, and when I wrote the mission statement, it was very clearly to encompass everything that we're about and to leave out the things that we're not about. And I would say that as a coalition in Pittsburgh, we have different groups with varying reasons of why they have membership, and they have different sort of themes to them, but none of them include the theme of what you're talking about, that level of skepticism where one would want to say we're trying to remove all things from government that are, we're for secular government, but we don't have a legal or litigious agenda at all.
Okay, I appreciate your clarification. I find that we have become, maybe call me sensitive, what have you, but I think I'm looking at the tea leaves not unreasonably. It strikes me that as the believers, if not are under attack, then they are generally on the defensive when it comes to organizations that want to remove and have had success in removing them from school boards, from governmental agencies, from governmental municipalities, to the point where at times, regardless of even that mission, which is very black and white, and I understand it, it's difficult to not believe that the opportunity to advance it beyond that isn't there. But I suspect that you disagree with me.
Well, I think we disagree with you on a couple of different levels.
That's fine.
I mean, I think from the atheist point of view, there's also been a lot of moves to bring God back into the government. Even the word "In God We Trust" was added in 1955 to the money and to the Pledge of Allegiance. I am perfectly happy with the original Pledge of Allegiance. So I think there's a give and take here. And I think this is one reason why secular people want to get together, is to share their common belief in the way that other groups want to get together when they feel that their view is perhaps different than what they see on television.
To be fair, I will tell you that I think those other groups also gather and want to have each other's company to advance an agenda.
I
understand your point of view. That is the retort in my mind to what I said, which is that there's actually, in your mind, been a growth of the God element, whereas I see it, and others perhaps see it opposite. Go ahead.
Well, I can't speak for all the groups that are out there in the United States that are secular groups, but I can say that, my particular concern when I started organizing was that there are a lot of people out there who will call closet atheists, people who, really don't have a belief in God or gods, or they've lost their faith, or they've been raised, if they're not closet, they've been raised without religion. And even though they're the fastest growing segment, it's 1 in 5 people in the U.S. now that's secular, they don't really have a place to go necessarily. I mean, they don't have the same level of community that religious communities have. And that can be a very lonely place. And so for me, the main mission of what I'm doing is to provide people with a social background and a place to live out, because very often people have humanist values when they're secular, to live out humanist values.
Okay.
So that's my main thrust.
Okay, good. We're going to come back. I want to talk about the lawsuit, the main thrust of the lawsuit, and what's being alleged, what the violation is, and what the relief is that's being sought by this organization right here at PCNC.